It's whiskey time. Greetings, whiskey folk, and welcome back to Drinking Out Loud. I am your host, as ever, Adam Bradshaw, and this is an extra special SMWS Outturn this month. It is Outturn 132. We've got some irresistible drams, a little bit of a, Halloween theme going on in the book here, but extra special in particular for us here in Victoria because this month marks the 10-year anniversary of the SMWS and the Strath coming together to bring SMWS whiskies to the wonderful whiskey folk here in Victoria, BC. And we've got a stunning lineup of 7 whiskies to release here today. And at the time, I'm really excited because at the time of recording, it's actually less than 24 hours until the tasting. I'm recording this Wednesday night. Tasting's on Thursday. It's being uploaded Friday morning for the general online release. Oh, by the way, all these whiskies actually already available right now. strathliquor.com/SMWS. Get there fast if there's anything you've got your eye on already. Because, limited supply as always with the SMWS. And we have released them to some members already at the Outturn tasting event. As always, we do save a couple of bottles at least of each release for members who couldn't make it to the tasting. So check out the website, strathliquor.com/SMWS. All 7 of these whiskies already available unless they've already sold out. So sorry if you've missed out, but hey, there's always brand new whiskies coming just around the corner. Next month we'll have even more for you. But yeah, one of the other things that's happening tomorrow night, which I'm really excited to announce, and since it's already been announced at the tasting, I guess I can announce here as well, we have partnered with Uncouth Chocolates here in Victoria to create SMWS chocolates. Yeah, they're going to be available soon in their store on Fort Street, and maybe even we might even be able to swing stocking them at the Strath as well. I'm not sure if we've got the right refrigeration needs and whatnot, but maybe you'll be able to pick them up at the Strath Liquor store. But Fort Street's only around the corner, guys. You can always go around the corner and pick some up as well. So yeah. Everyone at the tasting will have managed to try an exclusive SMWS chocolate as well. Very exciting stuff. Oh yeah, and this thing, we've got a sale. 10 years of the SMWS in Victoria sale. We've got 24 whiskies, all past releases from the SMWS that are all between 15 and 20% off. Yeah, I know, that's a heavy discount, but in fairness, we've got a lot of whiskey in stock right now. And we need to make some room for new whiskies. It's the beginning of the new season. We normally do our big whiskey sale. SMWS is always a part of that. This time, we just decided to do just an SMWS sale all month long. We will have our regular whiskey sale as well at the end of the month, but this starts already. You can already go to the website or in store and get some pretty hefty discounts. So yeah, pick yourself up a book. There's if you go to the SMWS's page at strathliquor.com, there's a digital version of this where you can just click on the page and go straight to the link to buy. And I've even put QR codes on the print copies, so you can just scan them on your code and pick them up straight away. Yeah, so thank you to everyone who has made this 10-year partnership possible. Everyone at the Strath, of course, my managers and the owners, the Olsons, Terry, Megan, my co-presenters throughout the years, Brett, Emily, who's actually joining me tomorrow. I'm so looking forward to having Emily come along again. Dan Rampling, Phaedra. I'm sure I'm missing someone. Sorry if I'm missing someone. And of course, the people that came before me, Pat. Good stuff, Pat. You're probably watching this. You usually tune in at some point. Thanks, bud. Yeah, I owe a lot to you, man. Rick White as well, of course, and Colin, who started this whole thing off. And I've still not actually met Colin. Colin, if you happen to see this video, swing by the store sometime. We don't bite. I mean, we'd love to see you again. Maybe you should come to an Outturn again one of these days. And, of course, big thanks to Kelly and Rob Carpenter. We couldn't do any of this without you. You literally brought the whiskies to our doorstep. You're responsible for everything SMWS here in Canada. So, yeah, thank you for choosing the Strath and choosing Victoria as one of the 4 destinations to get your SMWS whiskey in Canada. And thank you to every single member, past, present, maybe in future if you're watching this video. You are an incredibly special community that I'm incredibly proud to be a part of. Anyway, enough with the emotional stuff. Let's taste some whiskey, shall we? We've got an Outturn to produce here. Whiskey number 1 today. It's a bit of a surprise, isn't it? It's a salmon surprise. The nose was a delightful mix of different things: juicy fruit salad chunks, bubblegum, and winter herbs, along with more beer-like hop notes, copper pans, and the impression of sushi rice, umami, nori seaweed, and salmon sashimi, with ginger. With water, we got leather driving gloves, limoncello, herby focaccia, sweet olive oil, and flower honey. The palate opened with milk bottle sweets, coconut milk, Thai basil sugary porridge, robust maltiness, and wee notes of starfruit and burlap. With water, we found a shift towards dried herbs, stuffed vine leaves, duck ham. Not duck and ham, but ham made of duck, apparently. Duck ham. Mossy earthiness and white mushrooms. Big, complex, and impressive. I want to try duck ham. Anyway. Yeah. Salmon surprise. Surprise, everyone. It's a salmon. It is a bit of a surprise to have something with a salmon-style sort of tasting note so early on in the tasting, though, isn't it? Salmon often comes up with the peated stuff. Whiskey number 1. Going to be an interesting one. So this is cask 8828. So a distillery that we've not had often in the SMWS. It's only the 28th time it's ever been bottled. They managed to get 292 bottles out of this one. It was distilled on the 4th of February 2009. And it was put into a refill at bourbon hogshead and aged for 12 years. Came out at a cask strength of 54.3. Lovely. I realise I've neglected recently to actually have in my introduction any kind of explanation of what the SMWS is. I'm hoping the video we put together kind of explains it pretty well. But if you have any questions about what on earth the SMWS is and how you can join up and get involved here in Victoria, shoot me an email. My email is simple. It's whiskey@strathliquor.com. And if that's too hard for you, you can even get me at adam@thestrath.ca. Yeah. Oh, by the way, have you noticed? I've got an official SMWS tie on. I'm rocking the old school pin. I've even actually got Glencairn lapel pins. These aren't lapel pins. These are cufflinks, Adam. Cufflinks on, which is all very exciting. Dressing up for the occasion a little bit. Special thanks to Lawrence who gave me this tie. Yeah, I love it. It's got the full-on... I don't know if the light can pick it up here, but it's got like a screen print of the logo around the whole thing, and then a little embroidered logo at the top. Super cool. I feel very hip right now. Anyway, yeah, salmon surprise. I should get a glass. I'm also rocking today the old school, old logoed SMWS 2-liter glasses. Very exciting. Let's crack it open and see what I think of whiskey number 1, shall we? That is incredibly tight cork. Try again. Ooh, didn't want to come out. Ooh. Yeah, very herbal on the nose straight off the bat. And I really do get where they're coming from with the sushi thing. Seaweed, absolutely, nori, and like oh, what's the name of that sort of the light vinegar stuff they use in sushi rice sometimes? Yeah. Not entirely sure I'm getting salmon, to be honest, but maybe I'll be surprised when I take a little dive into the palate. Yeah, that's actually quite something. There's that sort of... There's a note that I really, really enjoy in whiskies that I often find in those sort of waxy Highland whiskies, you know, things like Tierninich, Clynelish, Glenord. There's almost bready, but not. And I still haven't quite figured out the best way to describe it, but I'm finding it in here as well. It's a little bit like old school suet dumplings that you have in like stew back home in England. It's not really a thing here. You say dumplings over here and you get Asian style dumplings, don't you? Is stew dumplings a thing here? Do Canadians know what a dumpling is in terms of stew? Let me know in the comments section, because I have no idea. It's not something I've come across. For anyone of Jewish heritage, matzah balls, very similar. So matzah ball, it smells a little bit like a matzah ball in like a chicken noodle soup. Ah, yeah. Not that you need to be of Jewish heritage to know what a matzah ball is, but you are admittedly more likely to. All right. Yeah. The herbal notes are becoming a little bit more aromatic, almost as if they're being cooked. They were sort of just dry before. Now they're feeling a little bit more enveloped and flavorful. A little bit of sort of a tropical fruit thing going on there, but a tropical fruit that can't be named, a mystery tropical fruit, and that's maybe where they're getting bubblegum from, because, you know, bubblegum's not really it's not a natural flavour, hence just calling it bubblegum. I don't know what they were aiming for when they first created bubblegum flavoured things, but I like to think it's a fruit that doesn't exist, and that's kind of what I'm getting here, another fruit that doesn't exist. Yeah, and that weird suety, bready dumpling thing. I can see where they're coming from with porridge. Oats kind of makes sense, but it's not oats. It's almost more like semolina or something. Yeah, dolmadis. I'm getting the dolmadi, the fig leaf, rice wrapped in fig leaf thing they're talking about. The fig leaves, vine leaves, one of the two, both maybe. And it's strongly the power of suggestion. I do understand the duck ham comment, because it is a little like a salty cured ham, but has that sort of gaminess that you find in duck breast as well. So as mad as it sounds, and I don't know if it exists, yeah, duck ham, sure, why not? Really like that. That's a strong start to the tasting. And it's actually a distillery I tend to not generally enjoy that much from the official bottlings, to be brutally honest. But as with any single cask SMWS release, you never know what you're going to get. And, you know, surprise. And I am. So there's a bit of a clue in the name as to where this is from, actually, because the official bottlings actually all have a salmon on the label. So, yeah, can you figure that out? Doesn't help that much, because there's actually more than one that have a salmon on the label. Fairly common thing in Scotland, apparently, salmon. But I've gone a little all out, I guess, for my trivia. So I don't always have the trivia in these videos, but I prepare trivia for the in-person tastings. And, you know, it's got to the point where I repeat myself a lot, because there's only so many interesting things to say about some distilleries, to be honest. So I've challenged myself to actually find out new information that I didn't know before today to present. It took me a lot longer than I expected, but I think I've got some pretty interesting stuff here, especially later on in the tasting. But this one is an interesting one. This has long been a favourite malt, and I knew this was popular in the States, but apparently for several years, and I couldn't find out the exact years and whether they're in a row, but apparently in the last 15 years, most of the time, this is the #1 best-selling brand of single malt in Finland. Yeah. It's a Speyburn. Yeah. Yeah. Speyburn is as pictured right here. I don't see them very often, and I'm, like I said, honestly, generally somewhat underwhelmed by Speyburn. And that's one of the things I love about the SMWS is their ability to shock and surprise me. And whereas I didn't really get the salmon, and frankly, I'm surprised I didn't get the salmon because generally, if there's something that's strong enough that's in the name of an SMWS whiskey, I at least get a hint of it. But I get a lot of things around the salmon. I get the sort of, the sushi rice and the seaweed and everything. But I am surprised that I really, really like this Speyburn. And I love it when I get an SMWS whiskey that shocks me like that. I really like this whiskey. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being a particularly memorable one that I fondly look back on in the future. Probably pick myself up a bottle, to be honest. It's really good. Speaking of picking up a bottle, it's available, strathliquor.com/SMWS 20165 for this 12-year-old Speyburn. All right. Well, on with the next whiskey. From a whiskey that we very rarely see to a whiskey that we've seen a lot. In fact, this is cask number 309 of this whiskey. We're going for Darwin's Tipple, evolutionary. An intriguing initial nose that opened with citrus bath salts and then evolved with laundered fabrics, pineapple cubes, melon liqueur, and warm cedarwood. Some aromatic heather flowers and mossy notes too. With water, we found it became more buttery and sweet with barley sugars, lemon water, malt extract, pollens, and kumquat. On arrival in the mouth, we noted a creamy Guinness foam note. Then sweet dessert wines, yellow plums baked with calvados, and things like marshmallow, apricot jam, and vanilla custard. With reduction, we found a more herbal theme with lemon verbena, wormwood, and tea tree oil, before lighter aspects like some fruit scone mix, banana bread, and fruity muesli. Sweet, fruity, and mellow, this is Darwin's Tipple 35.309. And 35, pretty popular distillery, obviously quite common. We've had 309 of them in the SMWS, but for good reason. They're very, very good and have a lot of fans. It's a space cider. This one was aged for 9 years in a first fill ex-bourbon barrel, distilled on the 28th of June 2012. They managed to get 226 bottles at an ABV of 60.3, and it's time to crack it open. I'm really intrigued by some of the notes. Melon liqueur, they have to be talking about Midori. It's weirdly popular in Scotland. When I worked at the Royal Oak in Edinburgh, a strangely large amount of regulars would just order a glass of Midori, and it's very strange. I don't even think I've seen a bottle over here. Is Midori available in BC? I don't know. I'll look into it. If it is, I kind of want to track one down for old time's sake. It's been a very long time. For all I know, we possibly sell it and I just haven't noticed. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, very buttery. Buttery pastries on the nose. Yeah. Diverse, playful, hugely charming, always light on its fruity feet, but also complex and showing an entertaining constant evolution. I was wondering where the Darwin thing came from. Apparently, this is one of the examples of when the bottle notes are quite different to the full-form tasting notes. Pineapple cubes, yeah. Actually, more specifically, for any Kiwis watching, pineapple lumps. Fantastic New Zealand candy. Can't exactly tell you whether or not I've had a kumquat in my life, so I can neither confirm nor deny the kumquat aspect of this whiskey. Yeah, mossy, cedar. Yeah, it's got that sort of slightly damp springtime in a woods kind of a thing. Not really getting the laundered fabric thing. I mean, or bath salts. I'm not really getting any kind of a soapiness at all in this. I'm not sure that's what they're trying to describe there. But, yeah. There is a sort of herbal lemon kind of thing. It's not quite lemongrass. It's more lemon myrtle. Tea tree oil. Yeah. Banana bread, eh? Well, slasher. Another one that's on the palate especially, particularly bready, almost yeasty. Like a nice fresh donut or something, you know? It's doughy. Ah, it's nice. Yeah, very pleasant. I realised I was very naughty and didn't add water to the last whiskey, so I'm gonna do that now before I forget. Little drops, see if it changes anything. Yes. Swaying ever so slightly away from the breadiness, although maybe croissants, towards a buttered popcorn, butterkissed popcorn. Caramel butter popcorn. Makes me want to go to the movies. There aren't any good films out right now. I love the way the Irish say films. Film. Why this is making me think of Ireland? No idea. It's definitely Scottish. Alright. So, on with the interesting trivia that I did not know before today. So, this distillery, which is Glenmoray, was built on the historic site of Elgin's Gallows, and many skeletons have been exhumed from the surrounding area. There's the little Halloween twist for you. Lots of spooky, scary skeletons hanging around the Glenmoray distillery, apparently. Delightful little Glenmoray. It's nice to see another one of these. We've had some wonderful older expressions of Glenmoray recently that, as with any older expression of whiskey these days, is kind of getting on the pricier side. So it's really nice to see a really approachable younger Glenmoray as well. Because Glenmoray is great at this sort of decade-ish kind of age range. 9 years old, $179.04. That means you have to be an existing SMWS member to buy this. Not eligible for the $180 plus membership deal. Yeah, go get them. strathleger.com/SMWS. And our third whiskey today is, it's spicy and sweet. It is Oat So Sticky. Inviting aromas of toasted cereals and sweet biscuits captured our attention before sticky syrup oozed over cinnamon popcorn and quince jelly. Wasabi heat on the palate became thick and viscous as butterscotch and maple syrup joined Turkish delight and licorice with peanut butter and banana sandwiches. A few drops of water unleashed orange creme brulee topped with vanilla ice cream and milk chocolate covered coconut. A funky note of fireworks in a barn became nutty and oily with porridge oats and butter, which continued onto the palate to be joined by lovely waxy textures. Mango chutney and apricot jam now blended with faint smoke and dry nut skins with a firm oak to finish. I actually mentioned this distillery a little earlier as a style that I particularly like. I forgot we were having one, to be honest, which is weird because I spent a lot of time researching this one. We'll get to the trivia soon. It's quite interesting. But yeah, this is a really interesting sounding whiskey. So it's a Highlander this time. We're branching out from the Speyside region. It's 12 years in a refill ex-bourbon hogshead from the 7th of April 2009. 205 bottles came out at 59.8% ABV. And I should grab myself a glass and crack open the bottle, shouldn't I? Oh, so sticky. Oh, so delightful. Well, hopefully. Sure it is. Ooh, that's a colour. Wasn't expecting that from a refill. Ooh, yeah, flapjacks. And I bet you anything, they wanted to put flapjacks in the tasting notes, but realised that Americans think you're talking about pancakes. So again, I've said this a few times, a flapjack is not a pancake when it comes to the British cuisine, the culinary arts of the British Isles. It's a very decadent, quite deadly oat cake slab thing, oat bar. It's one of the few desserts that I actually make, that and pavlova for some reason. It's basically oats, butter, sugar, oven, done. It's delicious. I say butter, sugar. There's usually treacle in there, but that's just a form of sugar, let's face it. It smells like a fresh flapjack out the oven. Oh, that is. And it's taking me back to the days when I was learning how to make these. And actually, I forgot why I learned how to make flapjacks, and this whiskey has reminded me. That is wild. I learned how to make flapjacks because I wanted to make something for the bake sale at my village's Victoria. What do they call it? The Victoria Market or Victoria Festival or something? It's this like. It was one day a year where everyone dressed in Victorian garb. And like one of my friends, Hannah, used to go around in a Victorian costume selling clothes pegs for charity. Clothes pegs, yeah. And I wanted to make something for the bake sale. So I made flapjacks. My sister, Sarah, taught me how to make them. As well as one of her favourite things to make, the little peppermint patty kind of things. Oh, thanks, Sarah. I still make flapjacks on occasion. I should make another fresh batch. It's been a while. Oh. Although there's a little hint. Speaking of fresh baking, my colleague Ali, who's in charge of most of the events that go on at the Sticky Wicket, is quite the home baker and brought some what do you call them? Pumpkin spice cheesecake cupcakes. I think it was like a cupcake with like a pumpkin spice cheesecake filling. Delicious. I'm kind of getting a bit of that. It's a little pumpkin spicy. It's a pumpkin spice latte whiskey. This is basic, people. It's not basic. It's quite complicated. But yeah, I can. If you're a fan of Lululemons and Uggs, you might like this whiskey for the pumpkin spice latte aspect. Must admit, I own a few items of clothing from Lululemon. They're very, very comfortable, especially for playing pickleball. Oh, yeah. That is good. That is real good. Big, thick, like creamy jam? I guess jam with cream, like a scone when you have like strawberry jam with clotted cream. But it's kind of together. It's like someone's found the secret to how to make a creamy jam. Yeah, and very oaty. Definitely on board. Oh, that's oily. Definitely on board with the name on this one. Wow. I love watching the oils dissipate in a really thick, viscous whiskey like that. It tastes oily because it is oily. And I mean, one of the things that makes it very flapjacky specifically is the butter aspect. This is big, buttery whiskey. One of the things that actually jumped out to me in the tasting notes that sounds like a good idea is cinnamon popcorn. Never had it. Kind of like it. I like that idea. I'm going to try that. Yeah, that's good. That's real good. We've hit 3 in a row that all have that indescribable, almost dumplingy baked good feeling to it, which I love. This one, kind of expected, because it is one of the distilleries I mentioned previously that I usually expect this kind of flavour in. It is a Glenord. Yes, it is. And so this is something I did know before, but it bears repeating because it's kind of funny. So Glenord, the official bottlings of Glenord are bottled under the Singleton brand now. But in the past, they've pretty much been bottled under everything other than just Glenord. They've been Glenordie, Ord, Glenoran, Ordie, and Muir of Ord. Yeah, I don't know why. As far as I'm aware, there's not been an official bottling just called Glenord. Don't know why. It's a nice name. But Glenord, very interesting distillery because they're one of very few distilleries in Scotland with their own maltings. And they produce so much malt, they don't just make malt for themselves, but for other distilleries owned by Diageo. So, including Talisker and Clynelish. They actually make a peated malt and at their maltings. It is peated to 100 parts per million. That's twice as peated as Ardbeg, pretty much. Ardbeg's like 55. It's like Ardbeg and Lafroig added together. Which is wild, but what they do is they mix that heavily, heavily peated malt with unpeated malt to get the right ratios of the malting that they want to give out to the distilleries, which is kind of genius, to be honest. It reminds me somewhat of the difference between Canadian whiskey and American whiskey traditionally, where Like in Americans, you'd make a mash bill. You'd make all the grains together and then distill it. Whereas in Canada, you make them separately and then blend them together to the desired result that you want afterwards. A little bit more mathematical almost, a little bit less guesswork. I feel like that's a little bit like the malting equivalent. But one thing to note, of course, is that a little tiny touch of smoke does get transferred into Glenord bottlings quite often, and I do get that little wisp, tiny hint of smoke in the background on this one. All right. This Glenord is available already, of course, at strathliquor.com/SMWS for $201.65. And now is a good time to mention, because there's a good possibility that some of these whiskies are already sold out. And whilst we are celebrating 10 years of the Strath being a partner store of the SMWS and the SMWS being available here in Victoria, we're not the only place in Canada that has it. No, if we are sold out, please check out our friends and partners at Legacy over in Vancouver. And if they're sold out as well, maybe there's some way you might be able to check out our friends at Kensington Wine Market in Calgary or Keg and Cork in Edmonton. Hi guys. Yeah, fantastic whiskey. And we are now, believe it or not, whiskey number 4, going into an oily and coastal whiskey with a little bit more of a hint of peat. So it's ramping up, guys. We're going now for a 1970s movie dram. The nose evoked oily rags in a ship's engine room, then off to the mess for tom yum soup and creamy pasta with smoked ham, mushrooms, and parmesan. The palate had pickled ginger and wasabi, medicinal smoke, smouldering coals and hot stones. Think male bonding, a shaman's tent, and a man called horse. The reduced nose found orange oil, antiseptic cream, artichokes in brine, cherries on a shovel, and old-school desk inkwells. Oh. The palate combined pickled herring and ginger with willow twigs dipped in honey and biting Peter Fonda's Easy Rider jacket. The finish supplied licorice tar and creosote, funky, fun, and flavoursome. What? That was wild, which I've come to expect from this distillery. This is a 93. This is 93.179, a Campbellton whiskey. For that weird Campbelltonness. This is from a first fill ex-bourbon barrel aged for 8 years. Distilled on the 21st of March 2013. 224 bottles came out at 60.4. And before we get any further, there's a big old asterisk here. Very important bottling, because this is, drumroll please, this quarter's Giving Spirit bottle. All of the proceeds from SMWS Canada's part in this release will be donated this time to Kid Sport Canada. And I'm sure there must be, there's a little note in the back of the book here about that. October's Giving Spirit bottle is 1970s movie dram, and this quarter we're turning our attention to Canada's kids by donating to Kid Sport Canada. The reality is that cost keeps 1 in 3 Canadian kids out of organised sport. Kid Sport provides grants to help cover those costs to ensure that no kid is ever left watching from the sidelines. Having been fortunate enough to participate in organised sports throughout our youth, we're delighted to support a cause that helps give every kid a chance to join in. We hope you'll continue to support the Giving Spirit program by buying a great bottle of whiskey and supporting a great cause at the same time. Nice. That's excellent. And also a little note further up. In 2021, we donated over $5,600 to 4 worthy charities and are continuing this trend in 2022. This past July, we selected cask number 2864, Slap On Sunscreen and Slow Down, which, by the way, is available in our whiskey sale. It is cask 2864. We have a few bottles left. It's 17.4% off. It is now only $132. So if you want to support the July charity, which was Food Banks Canada, you can do so at a 17% discount. $132. Not bad at all, eh? So yeah, they managed to donate $883.12 to Food Banks Canada. So yeah, keep up the good work, Rob and Kelly. We love that you're doing this, and members, make sure you're supporting it as well. Pick up an extra bottle if you can swing it. 1970s movie dram. What an interesting choice. This is going to be a wild and wacky adventure, isn't it? Let's let's give this one a go. Ah. That was a weird sound. Almost sounded like the cork snapped, but it didn't, which is good. I have to admit, I haven't seen I think any of the movies referenced in these tasting notes. I have a vague idea of who Peter Fonda is, and I've heard of A Man Called Horse. But, yeah. The notes on the front say engine room, oily rags, and germaline, medicinal smoke, and hot stones. Definitely get it. I understand those. I definitely get that. It is a bit of a someone poured germaline in the sauna kind of a thing. Yeah, it's wild. It's like a Lafroig that's had the peat taken out of it. Or rather, the smoke taken out of it. Very iodine-y. Oh, it's quite the wacky adventure going on my nose right now. I'm getting bacon. And, like, pineapple rings. What else did I get? I want to say baking powder. Talcum powder. There's all kinds of powders. Mustard powder, baking powder, talcum powder, and mustard powder. 3 powders you've probably never thought of in the same sentence before. But all there on the nose. That's really wild. All right, going in. Whoa. That's interesting. There's all of the hints that there's going to be peat on the nose, but without much smoke. On the palate, I got hit by like an unexpected jab. It was literally a jab, right? It wasn't a big swing, it wasn't an uppercut, it wasn't a knockout punch. But it shocked me because I wasn't expecting it. That's wild. Quite the different experience on the nose and the palate. It's a stiff jab. It's fast. It's unexpected. It's not going to knock you out, but it might make you lose a tooth. That is pickled herring. Yeah, roll mops. Straight up roll mops. Ooh. All right, I'm gonna have to try it with water just to see what happens. I have a tendency, as soon as I add a drop of water to this distillery, to usually find freshly inflated rubber dinghy, which I like. That's one of those with an asterisk, but in a good way kind of tasting notes. So is iodine, let's face it. You don't normally go around drinking iodine, do we? Well, I hope not. Probably shouldn't. If you do, stop it. Nope, not getting it this time. Not getting the rubber dinghy. But what I am getting, which is entirely contrary to pretty much everything I've had so far, is a weirdly refreshing mintiness, almost like toothpastiness. It's minty. It's toothpasty. It's minty toothpaste. It's toothpastey mint, minty toothpaste. One of the two. Doesn't matter which, I guess. That's wild. This is weird. This is such a weird whiskey. I love it. All right. Well, if you haven't guessed by now, and if I haven't accidentally already said the words Glen Scotia, it's a Glen Scotia. Wow. So, this was a rabbit hole. Glen Scotia is said to be haunted by the ghost of former owner Duncan McCallum. I knew this. I also knew that he drowned himself in the local loch after losing all of his money to a scam in 1930. And now I'm beginning to question pretty much all of this. So, I tried to find out more, and in doing so, I discovered actually several places, actually more places in total, saying rather than a scam that he was involved in illegal business dealings, and not necessarily saying that it wasn't his fault either. Yeah, so that was an interesting start. And then in my bid to find out more, I actually signed up for a free trial on not one, but two different genealogy websites to try and find more information about him. And I couldn't find a single record of a Duncan McCallum who died in the Campbellton area in 1930, which is weird. However, I did find one Duncan McCallum who was born in Scotland, who died in 1930, apparently in Cape Town, South Africa. So I don't know. I'm not saying that he actually didn't die. He faked his own death and then ran away to South Africa and then died there by accident. I'm not saying that, but it might have happened. Starting whiskey conspiracy theories right here. I hear conspiracy theory videos are actually very popular on YouTube, so I'm trying my hand at it. But it is weird. I'm surprised I couldn't find more information. It all started because I kind of wanted to know what the scam was, and it all went a bit weird from there. But yeah, Glen Scotia. Love me a Glen Scotia. Big fan of the Victoriana, as you possibly know. I've been pushing the Victoriana big. We had the exclusive on it for a little while there. It's now general release here in BC, thankfully. Everyone has a chance to pick up one of the best Campbellton whiskies available. Aside from, of course, single casks like this, which Glen Scotia is always such a roll of the die. I'm almost always impressed with Glen Scotia, mostly because I love being shocked and confused, and I enjoy a stiff jab to the ribs occasionally, apparently, like I did with this one. Shocking. I loved it. Yeah, you can get a little bit of everything with a Glen Scotia. You can get light and fruity, you can get deep, dark, and balmy, you can get just off-the-wall insane like this one. Love it. Yeah. I would recommend, if you haven't tried this whiskey, only buy one if you are adventurous in spirit. I'm always, especially in whiskey, a firm believer that favour finds fortune in the curious, and yeah, if you're a picky eater, don't even think about buying this whiskey. This is for curious adventure seekers, and if you are one of those, like I am, get it. You won't be disappointed because it's a wild ride. It is available right now at strathliquor.com, $196.43, and again, all of SMWS Canada's proceeds do go to help Kidsport Canada, so pick it up. Exciting whiskey. And we move on next to, I wonder where this could be from. It's called Peat Fire Tales on Orkney. We had quality fish and chips in brown sauce sitting on the harbour wall in Stromness, watching the ferry disappear into the sunset when we washed it down with honey blood orange margaritas with a smoky lime salt. It was getting cold, and we moved into the cottage with a roaring peat fire warming us quickly as we enjoyed slices of fudge and smoky tea penicillin, a cocktail using lemon juice, honey ginger syrup, lapsang souchong tea, and a sweet smoky whiskey. Worked absolute wonders as we had a fun-filled evening telling stories. After 17 years in ex-Oloroso butt, we transferred this whiskey into a first fill Pedro Jimenez sherry butt. So this is from the Highlands/Islands. It's called Peat Fire Tales on Orkney, so it's a bit of a giveaway where it's from, seeing as there's 2 distilleries on Orkney and one of them use peat. But yeah, I mean, the details here. Ex-Oloroso butt, finished in a first fill XPX. 19 years aged. Whew. It was distilled on the 20th of August 2001 and outturned because butts are big. 567 bottles, an ABV of 59.4. Oh my. If this one is still available right now, I'll frankly be quite shocked. A particularly highly sought-after distillery, and this one probably ticks a lot of the right boxes for a lot of fans. Let's see if it ticks the right boxes for me today. I want to try that cocktail. Smoky tea penicillin does sound lovely. I'll see if I can request it at one of the cocktail bars nearby. Speaking of bars, this weekend we're finally opening the Wicket Hall. Yeah, what was formerly District Nightclub. Before that, it was Legends. Before that, it was the Forge. I guess in between, it's also been Elements and 919. I don't know. It's been everything under the sun. But we've now decided to just expand the Sticky Wicket. Yeah, there's actually an internal staircase now between the two. Wicket Hall opening this weekend. We've got the Island Craft Spirit Festival. Island Craft Festival, which features spirits, beers and ciders from Vancouver Island on Sunday, which is going to be part of the big launch. And then the full proper launch next weekend. Yeah, looking forward to that. And it's not done yet, but we're actually carved off a little part of it where we will be bringing back 1621. It won't be called 1621 anymore, I don't think, but the whiskies will be returning. We will have our own whiskey bar once again at the Strath in the Wicket Hall. Yeah. It will happen. Hashtag soon. This renovation has taken a very long time, but it actually looks really quite nice down there, I've got to admit. And yeah, the final part of it, which will come a little bit later, is that new whiskey and wine bar that we're setting up there in collaboration with the Dram Association and the Grapes of Strath Wine Club. Ooh. The peat's very light. I'd almost say lighter than the last whiskey. But the colour's much darker, as you'd expect. Alright, well, the nose is playing games with me right now. It's playing hard to get, so I'm going to take a sip of water and smell that glass of water. That's a little trick that I learned. Smelling a glass of water helps reset your nose, apparently. Or at least makes you think you're resetting your nose, and that's kind of the most important part. Because senses is linked to your brain, and your brain is where pretty much all of your life experience happens. So, if you can trick yourself, that's good. And there we go. Yes. There we go. Opening up nicely. We've got a... oh, what are they called? Eccles cake. That's what they're called. An Eccles cake. And I'm still not sure where Eccles cakes are from. I feel like it's a Yorkshire thing. Although there's someone local makes them and brings them to the Highland Games every year, so maybe it's a Scottish thing, I'm not sure. But very popular in Yorkshire. It's like a buttery, flaky pastry with big sort of... I don't know how to describe it. Like, you know how rock salt is big chunks of salt? It's like the sugar equivalent of rock salt. Rock sugar, sure. And like raisins in it as well. Right, yeah. Yeah, it's like an Eccles cake. Love it. What else should I be looking at here? Blood orange margaritas. I'm getting more grapefruit than blood orange, but same kind of vein. Both citrus. Both on the darker end of flavour profiles. I'm getting like ruby red grapefruit, not the other grapefruit, which I'm blanking on the name of. Would help if I looked at the right page. It's like, these tasting notes don't make sense. Yeah, wrong whiskey. There we go. Smoky lime salt. Oh yeah, that penicillin cocktail. Brown sauce! Yeah, it is a little vinegary. Brown sauce, what's the brand that you have here? In England, we just call it brown sauce, and it's usually served with breakfast. Here, it seems to, for some reason, be steak sauce. A1, I guess, is a brand of what we would consider brown sauce. HP is the big brand. HP and Daddy's are kind of the big two brands of brown sauce. I think Heinz has a brown sauce. Might just be called brown sauce, not sure. I'm sure it's one of their 57 varieties. Interesting fact, I saw a full-on map recently that's was one of those infographic maps, and it was showing all of the different favourite sauces to go on chips from a fish and chip shop in the UK. And it's quite varied. It's really quite varied. Curry sauce, I think, was the one where I'm from. But my favourite personally is in Edinburgh. They have something they just call chip sauce. And it's an equal part mix of brown sauce and malt vinegar. It's great. Love it. And I'd say this is more of a chip sauce experience than a straight up brown sauce, personally. Either way, I would very much enjoy this with a sausage. And chips. Maybe haggis, actually. Ooh, I'm looking forward to that. I've got into a bit of a weird habit in the last few years. We now have. It is now customary in our household to have haggis on Thanksgiving. Or at some point over the Thanksgiving weekend. So we're having a Thanksgiving dinner with some friends on Saturday where we're having haggis. It's the most Canadian of dishes. Peppery. Yeah, it's peppery after water. It's nice. It's interesting how despite two different types of sherry cask, this isn't overwhelmingly sherried by any stretch of the imagination. The sherry is almost playing second fiddle to this beautiful, lightly peated malt base that's going on. It's quite interesting. Very well developed, as you'd expect for a, was it 17-year-old? 19-year-old, blimey. It is 19. Whew. That's pretty good. I'll tell you what. It's hard to get a 19-year-old official bot in from these guys anymore. Especially at a reasonable price. Alright. So, speaking of these guys, you probably already know this is a Highland Park. So, what interesting Highland Park trivia did I manage to track down? I found a quote. Yes. So, Highland Park is beloved by many, many, many fans. It has a legion of fans, a huge following, and I've managed to find a quote from a Highland Park fan, and this was written back in 1914. Here you go. I'm in the process of conversion to the idea that Highland Park is the only whiskey worth drinking, and that Johnny Walker is only fit for selling to deluded Sassenachs. Which is a fun quote, and it's even more fun when you know the person that wrote it, who was Sir Alexander Walker II, the grandson of Johnny Walker. This is probably my favourite Highland Park fact I've ever found. And it's one of those things like Highland Park themselves can't say that because, you know, they don't want to make too many enemies in the Scotch whisky industry. So you'll never hear it from a Highland Park brand ambassador, I'm sure, but that is absolutely hilarious, and I love it. All right, so this is a Highland Park, a 19-year-old Highland Park, available right now at strathliquor.com/SMWS, unless we're already sold out, for $443.39. Yeah, get it while you can, and enjoy if you do, because it is stunning. Right. Time for whiskey number 6. Yeah, we're into the peated, and that was only whiskey number 5. We're now into peated, not lightly peated, just straight up peated, for the Inland Shore. The panel encountered a particularly savoury and crisp peat smoke at first, then plenty of fresh coastal salinity, smoked olive oil, preserved lemons, citrus air fresheners and sardines charred over hot wood embers. Water brought a zing of hot acrylic, warm vinyl, sandalwood, umami paste, and a hint of seawater. The neat palate opened with bath salts, fragrant dried herbs, cured white fish, bacon frazzles, and finally a waft of more grubby organic peat coming through. Reduction added layers of complexity that suggested sheep wool oils, rock pools, dried seaweeds, mineral oils, umami pasta water, and an increasingly sharp saltiness. Alright, so this is possibly one of the only whiskies that can out-weird a Glen Scotia. I love that we've got both in today's lineup. This is Distillery 122.46. It's a Highland whiskey. It was aged for 15 years in a refill ex-bourbon hogshead, distilled on the 22nd of March 2006, and an outturn of 277 bottles, coming out at 53.6% ABV. Can't wait to try it. It sounds brilliantly wild. Yeah. Powerful and evocative whiskey that takes in the farmyard and seashore in equal measure. Per mare per terrace. Although I can't really say that because that's the official Latin slogan of who is that? It's I'm blanking on Glenglassaugh. It's Glenglassaugh's official Latin motto. And this is not a Glenglassaugh. This is a different Highland. Actually, about as far away geographically as you can get from Glenglassaugh and still be a Highland, to be honest. Oh, it's wild, but it's wild atop a bed of caramel shortbread. It has this wonderful biscuity caramel base that then has just a bunch of wacky toppings. What kind of wacky toppings? Well, coal, bird's eyes frozen fish fingers, or fish sticks, I guess they're called here, I think. I don't know. Is bird's eye a brand here? I'm not sure it is. I haven't had a fish finger in years. Teriyaki. Old woolen hiking socks. And I want to say cigar-flavoured lip chap. Like chapstick. Or maybe just chapstick that's worn by someone that smokes a lot of cigars. Like, you know, the cigar smoke has rubbed off onto the chapstick. I don't know. Huh. There's more. Fried capers with freshly squeezed lemon juice. Mussels. Mussel shells, specifically, actually. Not the flesh, the shell. A sweet German white wine, possibly a Gewürztraminer. A Cumberland sausage in a Yorkshire pudding. Clotted cream on top of a candy apple. One of those yellow fisherman's coats. Fisherman's friends. The middle of a Malteser, but instead of chocolate, it's covered in Marmite. Honey roasted cashew nuts. And Weetabix. I could probably keep going. This is one of the most evocative, wild, out there whiskies. It's got so much happening. It's just firing off like different sections of memories in my head. It's bizarre. It's almost overload, to be honest. Like, it almost feels like it's going to make my brain like error out. It feels like I'm running out of RAM. Wow. All right. Well, I'm gonna try tasting it. If I go into some kind of weird whiskey coma, then send help. Burnt marmalade. It's not unpleasant. It's like, you know, when you go to a fancy restaurant and they burn things on purpose? Well, at least I think it on purpose. It's fancy, so when they tell me it's on purpose, I believe them. Yeah, singed marmalade. And twiglets. And white chocolate. And smoked ham of some kind. I want to say jowl. Maybe smoked pork jowl. Kraft macaroni cheese. Pop-Tarts. Roasted pheasant. This is... I've got to stop, otherwise I'm going to just completely drain the glass and just keep saying random words at the screen, and that's... I don't know. Is that entertaining? No idea. It's a weird experience. Every time I go and take a sip of this whiskey, I get something more, and more, and more, and more. Yeah, I look forward to finding out what I get tomorrow in front of a room full of people. That is an absolutely astounding whiskey in... Yeah. That is very strange. Huh. Cool. All right, so trivia time. Actually, I've not even added water yet, have I? Sorry, I probably should, shouldn't I? For science. Smoked turkey on an everything bagel. Anyway, trivia with cream cheese. This is from Loch Lomond. Yes, it is, and I've been told to pronounce it several different ways, and I've now done a bit of research to find out where the stem of the word comes from and what it's probably most likely supposed to be pronounced. So I think. I used to call it Croft and Gia, and then I was told by, I think it was Tommy Boyd from AD Rattray, that it's Croft and Gee. Apparently, it's Croft and Gay, which he might have been saying, but with a Scottish accent, to actually, in fairness to Tommy there. Croft and Gay. And interestingly, most of Loch Lomond's whiskey styles are named after the islands on Loch Lomond, and this is something I knew. So like Inchmurrin, Inchfad, Inchmoen, all islands, right? Two notable exceptions: Rossdu, which I found out just means black or dark promontory, so like a rocky peninsula, the kind of thing that you don't want to crash into, and Croft and Gay. Oh, sorry, Croft and Gay, which is actually a specific historic oak tree, which translates to Tree of the Pledge, and it's the traditional gathering place of the Clan MacFarlane. And I didn't write it down. I think it also told me what MacFarlane translated. It's something like Sons of the True Sword or something epic. So yeah, it's the Tree of Pledge for the Sons of the True Sword. Love it. So yeah, it's named after a specific tree. I like that. An oak tree, I should say, precisely an oak tree. Love this whiskey. This is got to be one of those ones like Dystopian Cyberman lubricant, which sticks out as an example of something that just keeps on morphing and growing and adding layers upon layers of weird and wacky peated Highlandy kind of notes. Love it. This is available right now at strathliquor.com. 15-year-old Croft and Gee from Loch Lomond. 240.78. Go get 'em. And now, the grand finale of this Outturn, this very interesting, wonderful Outturn. And I'm trusting. I'm trusting in the process here. Our friends over at Kensington Wine Market, Evan specifically, came up with the order, and even he sounded like it sounded like he didn't believe that he put it in this order. But yeah, we're going deep, rich, and dried fruits last. We're going away from peat. We're going peated and then unpeated to finish, because apparently this is just that powerful that you just couldn't possibly drink anything else after it. I'm excited to try that. That sounds riveting. So for the first time ever, we're going peated and then unpeated in an SMWS Outturn here at the Strath with me. Deep, rich, and dried fruits. A merry-go-round of multifarious amusements. The nose is a merry-go-round of multifarious amusements. Orange oil, kirsch, marzipan, vanilla, and dates, with a subtle susurration of treacle, nutmeg, licorice, and Dunwich warehouses. The palate is chewy and substantial, yet smooth and easy, a massive fruit bomb of marzipan cherry cake, strawberry tarts and blueberry muffins with tannic undertones of malt loaf, dark chocolate, and balsamic glaze. A touch of water brings curious notes of dandelion and burdock, fennel seeds, pine resin, eucalyptus to the nose, and sticky toffee pudding, tamarind, stem ginger, walnut whip, and leather to the palate. After 11 years in an American oak Oloroso butt, we moved this into a first fill Spanish oak PX butt. Double sherry again. This time 3-year finish in a first fill Spanish at PX butt. And it sounds wild. Yeah, intrigued. Colour me intrigued. Also, love the new word I just learnt, susurrations, which I had to Google, I will admit. It means like murmur. That's like susurrations. I like it. Anyway, let's see what we're dealing with here. 29th of May 2007, it was distilled in the Speyside region and aged for 14 years in those mixture of two different sherry butts. 56.9% ABV, an outturn of 540. This is cask 41.148. All right. Evan, you wild man. What have you got us into? Yeah, okay. That's pretty full aroma full. That's potent. That is like Cavalan Solace levels of concentrated aromas. Ooh. All right. Cherry cough drops on the nose. Yeah. Yeah, definitely with the cherry cough drops, a hint of eucalyptus as well. Very interesting. And balsamic vinegar. Oh my God. Whoa. Fair play. Fair play, Evan. I wouldn't have wanted to follow this up with something else because that is aggressively flavorful. Concentrated fig juice. With like a paste entirely made out of walnut skins. Man, that is... Some of those flavors are flavors I've only found in, frankly, 3, I'm remembering more as I go, 4 whiskies I've had in my life. All of them over 50 years old and all of them bottled by Gordon MacPhail. It is a super old, tannic, aggressive flavour, but like with a youthful vigorousness backing it up as well. It's 56.9. So, you know, when you go to a whiskey tasting and it's with people who aren't necessarily used to whiskey and it's being presented by like a brand ambassador or someone who travels the country talking to people who haven't necessarily tried whiskey before even, which is something I don't do very often. I'm mostly talking to people who are quite heavily involved in whiskey these days, so I don't get to flex that side of my presentation skills very often. But they'll always warn you about not putting your nose too far into the glass because you might like hurt yourself almost. And I've got to the point now where I'm expecting. I know what a whiskey tastes like. I know I can put my nose pretty close to it now and take a pretty deep breath, and it won't hurt me. This just actually legitimately made my eye water after I put my nose too far into the glass. Wow, that's flavorful. And it's not in a bad way. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying any of this in a bad way whatsoever. It's aggressive, but that's kind of a selling point. It is a selling point. This is concentrated, just raw, aggressive whiskey, and that's cool. Oh, at least that's what I'm getting out of it. Like, you know, your experience may vary, of course, as it should with whiskey. Everyone's experience is completely different. But this is a bit of an assault on the senses, and it's brilliant. Oh. I'm gonna have to add water just so I don't hurt myself. Got a decent thwack. Very oily, very thick. I can tell from looking at it, it can take a decent amount of water. And now it smells like a butter tart. Floating in a bowl of cognac. That's nice. It's still got this, like, zingy, punchy, like, I want to say cactus feel to it. Like, it's not like eating cactus flesh. It's like having your tongue prickled by many little cacti. Yeah, that's cool. I wonder how this is going to go down tomorrow. I think this is going to be one of those ones where it's going to shock a lot of people. And they're going to and ah about it, but in the end be like, yeah, this is like nothing I've ever had. I want to pick some of this up. Love it. And the weird thing is, in one form or another, most whiskey people have had something from this distillery. However, not on its own. This is... yeah, 41148. This is a Dalyuen. And this is the trivia that I found out specifically about Dalyuen today. I've always known part of Diageo's lineup. It's part of the Johnny Walker blends. It's a key component in those. And it's probably one of those things where if a lot of it ends up like this, it's probably a little bit goes a long way in those kind of blends, which is what you want, right? What I didn't know is that it's so heavily used in the Johnny Walker blends that only 2% of Dalyuen is released as a single malt, either officially or unofficially. So 98% of Dalyuen goes into, assumedly majoritively Johnny Walker, but potentially some other blends as well. Neat. Wild. All right, well, this 14-year-old Dalyuen is available right now at strathliquor.com/SMWS. For $226 even. $226.00 plus a 10-cent bottle deposit. Yeah, available right now unless it's already sold out. strathliquor.com/SMWS. Thank you very much. This has been a wonderful Outturn to present. I'm really looking forward to the physical tasting tomorrow. If you couldn't make it to the Outturn tasting, then, well, I'm sorry we missed you. But tickets are available right now for the November Outturn tasting. I actually, at the time of recording, don't know the date. I'm going to set it tomorrow morning. Going to make sure the room's available. It might even be in the new Wicket Hall. I don't know. I've yet to figure out whether it's going to be a good layout for tastings. We might stick to the Maple Room for the time being, but if we can make it work, hey, might be in the new venue, just for fun. Yeah, I'm going to try that. So, thanks for coming. Again, check out our ridiculous 10 years at the Strath sale. 24 bottles between 15 and 20% off. Yeah, that's a hefty saving, like nothing we've ever seen before in the SMWS here in Victoria. So yeah, do check all of these whiskies out. It's quite the sale. And yeah, if I have time, I'm going to put up a couple more videos this month celebrating the fact that the SMWS is turning 10. I'm going to do my own personal favourite bottles, hopefully, and maybe also do a little video specifically about the sale if I have time. If not, I'll see you next month, November Outturn. Be there or be square. Or be both. You can be square. I like squares. See you later.